So the UFC protects a lot of fighters, and what I mean by that is that the UFC will see a fighter who has a lot of momentum and try to give them very good stylistic matchups to win, or give them a can, and eventually when the fighter is ready, they'll give them a high ranked opponent. This has happened time after time, like when Sean O'Malley was ranked number 11 and he fought Peter Yan, who was ranked number 1, or when Alex Pereira fought Sean Strickland, and keep in mind, Alex wasn't even ranked at that time. He only had 2 fights in the promotion, yet he was up against Sean, who was ranked number 4, and now to be fair, those fighters passed the test and proved that they're high level fighters, but the same thing cannot be said about Paddy Pimblet. His path to the top hasn't been so smooth. I mean, he's faced decent fighters, but the dude often gets hit cleanly in many of these fights. This has been a recurring issue for Paddy as his striking has not evolved. Specifically, his defense is weak. Paddy often approaches like a rock'em sock'em robot, swinging wildly with his chin exposed, and while he has defeated all these opponents, he seems to rely on that chin for defense. And look, I'm not trying to hate on Paddy. If anything, I like him. I like that he just calls people food items or inanimate objects over and over. He's a sausage lad. He's a hand sanitizer lad. He's a cabbage lad. And I also like how this dude just fluctuates his weight back and forth. The dude's a character, man. He's entertaining as well. He almost has everything besides the skills. And I'm not gonna lie, he's his own worst enemy. I mean, his coaches keep telling him to raise his hand and tuck in his chin, but he's not taking their advice. This stubbornness is why he struggles to adapt and block incoming shots. He relies way too much on that chin, and these are just the facts. Sooner or later, it's going to give, especially since he hasn't faced anyone yet with some serious knockout power. And if I'm gonna be honest, Paddy fights like someone who has been trained as an outside fighter, but who learns really early on that he has a very strong chin, and he realizes he can take outrageous chances. The best thing that can happen to Paddy is for someone to knock him out. It might be the only way to force him to reassess his approach of blocking with his face. And hey, I will give him some credit, it's been effective so far. He's still undefeated in the UFC, but relying on your chin for defense isn't the greatest plan, especially when you're taking clean hits from fighters who aren't even ranked. And it was quite evident after Paddy fought Gordon that there's a significant skill gap between him and the top 15. Not only was Paddy outstruck, but he was also out-grappled too, which is surprising since grappling is supposed to be his strong suit. Like, what's gonna happen when he fights a wrestler or a grappler like Gamrot, Armin, Moicano, Grant Dawson, Islam? Those type of fighters are going to ragdoll him on the ground, because if Jared Gordon was able to out-grapple you, you don't think these wrestlers will somehow not kill Paddy on the mat? Paddy's strong suit is jiu-jitsu, and while he's good at it, he's already shown that he can be overpowered. I mean, it's no secret that he got exposed in that fight. But to be fair, I honestly can't comprehend how it took people this long to realize Paddy is nowhere near the caliber of a fighter that the UFC wants you to think he is. I mean, the dude was having competitive fights with prospects who were 1-3, and if you're consistently having competitive fights against fighters with a 1-3 record in the UFC, then honestly, I don't know what to say, man. You just might not be that good. And here's the thing, guys, people who never followed Paddy before he signed with the UFC don't yet realize how many weaknesses he actually has. He has a huge cardio problem, man. I mean, just look at Paddy's last fight when he fought Tony, man. Paddy was starting to slow down, and it was shown in that fight that he doesn't really have good cardio, and he couldn't even finish Tony, who's in like what, a 7-fight losing streak at this point. And I don't know, man. I don't know what you do with Paddy, because his next fight has to be in the top 15, and he arguably is in one of the hardest weight classes in the UFC. I mean, look at the top 15, bro. Bobby Green, RDA, Benoit Saint Denis, Jalen Turner, Dan Hooker, Renato Moicano. Dude, any of those fighters would take Paddy out. I think the main reason he hasn't had a fight yet is because the UFC is struggling to find someone he can beat. Obviously, they want Paddy to win. But when you look at the top 15, bro, I think his best bet is against Bobby Green, just because Bobby Green is up there in age and he's hittable nowadays. I mean, we've seen him get stunned every so often, because if you give him any other guy I just mentioned, he will get ragdolled or potentially knocked out. Bobby is the only guy he could probably beat in the top 15 if I'm being realistic. But I truly believe that Paddy's hype train will get derailed this year. Obviously, it doesn't have that much hype because people have woke up and noticed that he's a bum. There's just no way he's beating anybody in the top 15 besides maybe Bobby Green. I mean, there's no easier way to say this, but he is fucked. Simple as that. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below if you agree with me or not. And like always, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like always guys, I'll see you on my next one.